1 year ago, Pixar released their underrated masterpiece, Turning Red. Can you even believe it's been a whole year since this movie came out? It feels like just the other day I was hyping up this movie saying how great it would be. For me, this one is up there with the greats of Pixar. Since it's now been a year and this movie isn't brought up as often, I figured it's a good time to revisit this movie. This is Turning Red 1 year later. I just want to start this by saying that I'm still a little annoyed that this was never released in theaters. Meanwhile, the far inferior movie Lightyear gets the theatrical summer release for last year. Anyway, when this movie was first announced, it appeared to be very different than what you would typically expect from Pixar. However, that's not a bad thing. In fact, most Pixar movies initially don't feel like a Pixar movie to me until a few months after release. When Lightyear had its first teaser released, it was definitely a very strange concept to me seeing Buzz Lightyear as a human. Now though, I've gotten completely used to it. And it isn't necessarily a bad thing. I would even go as far as to say that the more a Pixar movie feels different from the rest, the more it feels like Pixar, because they always try to tell unique stories. The same goes for Turning Red, where the themes in this movie are new territory for Pixar to explore, and it expresses its themes flawlessly through May's extremely effective character arc over the course of the movie. This movie can essentially be broken down into 5 segments. The first being the beginning of the movie, when May is introduced as being confident in herself while also being different in her own way, which is made clear by Tyler. Even within her own friend group, she is the outcast, always a puppet of her mom.
She's so brainwashed.
Once the panda incident happens, her whole world is shaken and any confidence she had during the beginning of the movie is now gone. She then learns that her friends can help her control the panda and plans to go to Four Town. However, when her mom says no, she slowly starts to be less close with her mom and instead finds comfort in her friends. The turning point is Tyler's birthday when she loses control and attacks Tyler. Her mom, instead of getting angry with her, blames her friends. May is left with a choice between her friends and her mother. After taking the side of her mom, she is now conflicted. After a talk with her dad, she decides not to go through with the ritual and defies her mom more than she ever has, before finally finding a balance between friends and family at the end of the story. She basically goes from one extreme to the other over the course of the film, and then finds a middle ground by the end. Another great thing about this movie is how it's mostly grounded in reality until the end. Aside from the red panda, May goes through the normal struggles that teenagers go through with school, friends, and family. And May is put in situations where she faces her worst fears, such as the scene at the Daisy Mart. And while watching this, I expected it to reveal this to be a dream sequence or something, but it didn't. And it is instead used to further her insecurities. The way that the kids in this movie interact with each other is exactly how I would imagine teenagers speaking.
What's with her?
What's with your face?
What is with you?
But the last way you would expect this movie to end is with a 1v1 giant panda battle. I love how everything in this movie is dramatized to show how small issues like going to a concert could be the biggest deal in the world to a teenager. And while most Pixar movies introduce us to new worlds or have a lot higher stakes in this movie, I like how this chooses to tell a more personal story. As someone who likes to make theories, I like how this movie subtly builds on what was established in Brave, Luca, and Soul while also being its own thing. And we get to see the world of Pixar from the eyes of average people. It was also a great decision to have this be set in 2002 opposed to modern day, because it feels close enough to the world today, but also a lot simpler. And the movie doesn't need to keep reminding you that it's set in 2002, and you may not even realize it if you weren't paying attention to the technology they used. And finally, the soundtrack for this movie is just amazing. Or should I say, amazing. Yes, the Four Town music is great, but the entire soundtrack is also just as good, and it perfectly sets the tone of each scene, going from whimsical to moody to intense. And it's just one more thing that makes this movie as great as it is. Anyway, let me know your opinion on Turning Red in the comments. And while you're at it, why don't you go check out this theory on how the events of Monsters Inc. were actually a setup. Thank you for watching, and bye!